New media alert, new media alert. Buy Black Podcast has gone live. That's right, folks. Buy Black Podcast is now broadcast live on Facebook every Wednesday night. You will be able to connect with me and my guest directly in the chat. Get your questions answered rather than having to wait about a month for our shows to hit the podcast directories. If you are not connected with me, go find me on Facebook, GWJONESII. And of course, you need to be following the Buy Black Podcast page so that you can see the events as we post them. This coming Wednesday, we're going to have Jermaine Hagan on, and he's going to talk to us all about holistic health and how we can invest in our health so our bodies can create the wealth. You will not want to miss it, and every other episode that we're going to have coming down the line in the future. So find us on Facebook, connect with us, follow us, join the conversation, and of course, share it, share it, share it. Now let's get into the show.
Your book meets all our guidelines. It's now ready for publishing. But there's a final step before that. They'll say you can either choose to have your book published now and go out onto the major distributors, or you can order a proof of your book. You can order a proof of your book just to, look at it, make sure it looks as good in your hand, as good in person as it does on the screen. I actually compare the proof that I get to those other books to see how it looks compared to them, to see how the design is, the framing, the structure of it, everything like that. Once I know that this book looks like a presentable book and not something I just slapped together in 5 minutes, then I say, okay, you can publish it now. And I clear it for publishing, and then, it's out there. And it usually takes about a week for the book to be fully published across the major platforms like Amazon, Barnes, all of that. It takes about a week for it to be on all of them. And then that's it. Your book is published. Feel free to start marketing people, getting the word out there.
Buy Black Podcast, episode 61. Build your self-publishing empire using Createspace and social media marketing with author Edd Far. Welcome to Buy Black, the voice of Black business. The only podcast that provides free marketing for growing Black companies, education for budding entrepreneurs, and a reliable place for consumers to find and spend money in quality Black-owned businesses. I'm your host, Gerald Jones, and if you learned something from this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Ready? Let's get to work. Hey everybody, welcome back to Buy Black Podcast, the voice of Black business. And today we're going to be bringing you another great interview. It seems like we've been having interviews back to back to back, which is great. That means you guys are out there, you're spreading the word, folks are getting in touch with me, and we are able to present you with even more entrepreneurs, even more authors, even more people to come in and teach us something new. And today will be no different. Today I'm joined by Mr. Edd Far. Edd is a writer. He is from New York City, and he is a person who he writes, he illustrates children's books, he is in sales, he's got a tutoring business. He is the quintessential entrepreneur and Renaissance man. And Edd reached out to be on the show because he has a new book that is releasing actually today. Actually, no, it's not today because this show is going to come out here in about a month. But it released about a month ago. I like to time jump inside the episodes every once in a while. But hey, Edd, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. How's everything?
Everything is good on my end, and I hope it's great on yours. And with the show, I like to just jump straight into it and hand it over to you for the platform. Talk to us a little bit. Tell us a little about your background, who you are, where you come from, what you love, and just let the folks get to know you.
Sure. Like most people, first of all, I want to say hi to all the folks out there who are listening or who are going to be listening. Hello from the past. This show is like a little time capsule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like most people, I come from a working class background. My parents worked very hard. My father worked very hard his whole life. My mother, the same thing, to help me get through college, just to provide a good roof over my head, a stable shelter for me. They taught me everything they could. I just came from a really small family. I'm an only child, but ever since I was little, like from around the age of 5 or so, I've always loved to write. two things I always really loved. No, three things. I always loved writing, reading, and drawing. And, so I was doing that for my whole life until, recently in my early 20s, I started to think two things. I wanted to give back to my parents for all they've done for me, and I also wanted to find a way to monetize my talents. So, I said, I love to write, I love to draw. Let me find a way to monetize these things, like become an entrepreneur using these things and using other skills that I have and build myself up so that I can give back to my parents, most of all, because I want to set it up so that my parents, never have to work again a day in their life. They're older. They're getting older now, and I want to be the one to take care of them. So what I'm doing is not just to serve myself. I want to serve my parents, and eventually I want to serve my community. That's first and foremost. And, like you said in the bio, I had my own tutoring business where I tutored people ages 18 and over in multiple subjects. So college level math, English. I taught English to people from other countries where English wasn't their first language. I helped people write grants. I helped people write business proposals. I've illustrated children's books that are in publishing stages right now. Like I've just done so many things because I've always been a curious person and a restless person, but restless in a good way. I've always been restless in that I have to work on a new project at all times. I always have to be doing something new. So that's why, I'm here to create. I'm here to share my creations with the world, and I'm here to teach people along the way as well. So I'm just a person who likes to do different things, create different things, learn, and teach what I've learned.
Yeah, that is awesome. So I knew about the illustrating the children's books. I didn't know about, helping people with writing business plans and things like that. That's really cool. So what was it that kind of sparked your interest in entrepreneurship? I know you said that you decided to monetize your talents. What was it that really made you make that shift from kind of writing for fun to saying, I need to write and make money with this?
Around years ago when I was in college, I started listening to a lot of podcasts. And the central theme, a lot of those podcasts and the central theme in my books was following your dreams, following your passion and your talents, and turning those talents into a business. Like I just kept hearing that over and over and over and over again. And then they would say, as Black people, especially, we really need that because, I believe we're the most talented people in the world. And I believe that we just need to show that more. Like there's so many things that we can do. And when I was hearing this, I'm like, this is great stuff right here. This being able to be independent, being able to move up off my own God-given gifts, like that's an amazing thing. And when I kept hearing these podcasts talk about entrepreneurship and the hosts of the shows had their own businesses, their own products, their own services, I said, they can do it. I can do the same thing. What's to stop me from doing the same thing that they've done? Nothing, right? The only thing that can stop me is my own drive, my own determination. And I have a ton of that. So I use that to invest in myself and create something that I could share with the world. So last year, I really started writing my first book. And I said to myself, if I'm writing all these poems, that are meant to inspire and make people think, make people laugh, and make people feel, I might as well share with the world. Like I'm writing this stuff. There's nothing to it but to do it. Let me just publish it. So last year was when I really decided to publish my work and, just start building from there. I feel like I've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, well, I mean, 2 books in 2 years. I mean, you're way ahead of the game with a lot of us out here.
I've done 2 books this year. So my first book was released earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
And I just released my second book today.
That is incredible. Yeah. Well, please, sir, excuse me.
I
2 books in a year. That is, that's phenomenal, man. I mean, I've had no less than 10 book ideas, and I keep writing the titles down, and then I get bogged into something else. Was it a matter of you collecting the things that you had already written to make that first book, or did you make a decision and say, "Hey, I'm going to create a book of poems," and you created new stuff to put in there?
Yeah. First of all, I'm very thankful. I'm very humble, that I've had the opportunity to share my talents with people. That's the first thing. And I'm glad that, because, there's always that little bit of apprehension, when people first create something, they're like, oh, are people really going to buy what I'm selling? Are people really going to enjoy the work that I've created? But the thing with me is that I never really had that, though, because I've always had, I've always believed in myself. Because if I don't, who will? So I've always believed in myself first and foremost. And I know that there would be people out there who enjoy what I created. And so, like I said, there's nothing to it but to do it. And I'm going to be honest. I want you to repeat that question, too, so I can make sure I answer it fully.
Yeah, I asked, when you did your first book, did you just decide, hey, I'm going to create a book of poems, and you wrote a lot of new material to put into the book? Or did you look and say, I've got all of this material, I need to organize it because I already have a book?
Right. So I would go with the first one. I decided I'm going to create a book. So first I decided I was going to create a book, and then the next question was, because I had no problems with the material. The material was flowing. It was just flowing. Like, there would be times where I was sleeping in the middle of the night and I would jump out of bed to write stuff down because I'm like, this is going in the book tomorrow. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm typing this down. So, I didn't want to forget. So what happened was I decided I wanted to write the book, and then I just started writing every single day, nonstop, every single day. And then when that happened, after that happened, the next question I had was, am I going to go through a publishing company, or am I going to self-publish my work? And I knew, like, I've actually spoken to people, like, I know people closely who are authors. They're published authors and things like that, and they're in the middle of getting things published right now. So I asked them questions. I'm like, how long did it take for you to get this book published when you went through a major distributor? And, they're telling me 6 months, a year, more than a year, like, sending out all these query letters, going through all this hassle so that someone can look down off their high horse and decide, maybe I think I might be willing to take a look at your work and publish it. And I just didn't have the patience for that. I said, okay, you know what? I have the option and the availability of publishing my own work myself independently and having control over it. So that's what I decided to do. It was a much quicker process and a much easier process than people. So it was those two things. I decided I wanted to write, and then I decided I wanted to publish it myself.
That is awesome. And we'll come more a little bit later on about kind of that process of publishing. I want to back up one more time and just ask, before you decided to write the book, and you were already writing so much poetry, you were already putting it together, how did you get it out to the world before you decided to write a book? Did you go out and do like live poetry readings, or kind of what was that like before turning it into a compilation?
The biggest thing I did was online advertising. Or, you know what, I'm going to call it online brand building. So I made sure that I developed a strong social media presence, because, one of the best things about living in 2018 is that it's easier to sell products more than ever, and it's also easier to build a brand that reaches more people and resonates with more people than ever before. So on Facebook, I made sure I built a large following. On Instagram, I made sure, I just made sure that I had access to many people. I made sure to share other people's work and support people's work, because I can't ask people to support my work if I'm not going to support theirs. I don't believe in that. I wasn't raised that way. If I'm going to ask you to do something for me, I'm going to do the same thing for you. So I made sure I was, sharing other people's work, getting the word out about other people's work. And also I was getting the word out about my work. So I would say, I'm working on a book. It's coming out in a month, 2 months, 3 months. I'll just create that build up for it. I have a book coming out. Here's some excerpts, because I already had a lot of the poems written down. So I would start posting excerpts every day of different works from my book, so people could see what they would be getting when they purchased it, or when added it to their collection, so they would know what it was about. And, it would just open their eyes, give them an insight. So I started building my presence online. And that was the main form of advertising that I did. Social media, Instagram, Twitter, I kept my social media presence very strong.
Okay. So let me ask on that, just based on your experience, which one of those platforms do you think works best for someone trying to come into the market like you? You've got a product already, you're self-publishing. Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram, Twitter? Which one of those has gotten you, I guess, the largest response for both your brand and then for your book sales, if you can measure that?
So this is a two-part answer. First part is, based on what I've seen so far, Facebook and Instagram have been the most effective. But the second part I'm going to say is that it all depends on who you market your book to. Because honestly, a lot of people are on Facebook just for entertainment. They're not on Facebook to support anything anyone's doing. They're not on Facebook to they're not about business when they're on Facebook. That's most people. So I learned that. In the first few months, and then I started actually, looking for people who had similar interests to me, people who are authors, people who knew about business, people who had different business platforms, and then I started letting them know about the work rather than just doing what fish do and just broadly spawning. Mm-hmm. I started concentrating and targeting. I started targeting my work. I started targeting my audience, because that's one of the keys to advertising and marketing. You have to have your target. You can't be broad because it's going to get nowhere. So I targeted and I concentrated on groups and certain people, and I noticed that my results improved because of that.
Okay, so
but based on your question, I would say Facebook was the most effective.
Yeah. Now, was it just the black business type groups, or was it writing groups, or did you cultivate, like, on your personal page a group of friends who were all business minded? What was your strategy with turning Facebook into a great platform for personal brand marketing?
It was a combination of all of those things. So different poetry groups. I joined writing groups. I joined author groups. I joined black business groups. I joined so many different groups, and I just started posting excerpts from my books every single day. So I'd post excerpts. I would share them to different groups. I would tell them this is an excerpt from my upcoming book. It's going to be in store soon. It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be on Barnes & Noble. You can't miss it. It's definitely worth adding to your collection. And I would show them why. So then I gave them the choice to form their own opinion and say, okay, this is something that I can get behind. This is something that I can add to my collection. So, in those groups, those groups were the key, because like I said before, it's all about targeting your audience. It's all about concentrating your market. It's all about choosing the people who have the similar interests to you and the people that will have a higher interest in what you're promoting.
Okay. Now, flipping over to Instagram, completely different style of platform, very visual, right? And you've got a book with poetry. So what was your strategy on Instagram? How did you, I guess, cultivate a following there? How did you use that? Because I would have to believe that there'd be a little bit of a difference.
Right. So Instagram, it was a combination. Instagram was a combination of my illustration and my writing. So I would have a lot of pictures of things that I've drawn. Like, I had pictures of my children's book illustrations on Instagram and a lot of portraits that I've drawn, because I have many different art styles. I can go from drawing pictures that almost look like photographs to things that look like cartoons. Now, in terms of the books, I started taking pictures of my books once published and putting them on Instagram. And then I would put excerpts from the books. I put poems from the books in the comment section, and I would do different things like that. I'd use a lot of hashtags. That were very popular on Instagram to draw more people to the page. And as a result, the number of followers grew and more people became aware of the book because of the hashtags that I use and the pictures that I use. So that really increased awareness there, because what I learned from talking to people who actually have a large amount of presence on Instagram, I learned that a lot of it is how you say things and how you use your pictures, and also the type of hashtags that you use. Like, we think that hashtags are just these little trendy things that kids use and all that, but when it comes to marketing, hashtags are crucial, especially on a platform like Instagram. Like, they're crucial. When you use popular hashtags, more people will see your work, and you'll be able to build a larger presence on Instagram.
Yes, and so my wife had to teach me that, because I have always been a Facebook person. Facebook came out when I was first in college as a young, 15 something years ago, and so that's kind of the platform I always stuck with. And when I started jumping into Instagram, she was like, yeah, no, you're doing this all wrong. You've got like one hashtag here. You need like 15, right? And you got to do the research. You got to know which hashtags are popular, which ones kind of tie to the audience that you are trying to connect with. Are there any tools that you use when you're picking the hashtags that you use to market on Instagram?
Right now, I just make sure that it has something to do with what I posted. Like I make sure it's connected. So let's say I post something about poetry. I'm going to use a hashtag like create. I'm going to use which is very popular. I'm going to use a hashtag like art, poetry. Those hashtags have millions of posts. So when people see, like, when you use hashtags like that, your post is going to have a higher rating and a higher ranking because you've used hashtags that connected to something that will reach a much broader audience. So it's about using a popular hashtag and also using one that makes sense. Not just putting hashtags to put them, but it has to connect to what you're actually doing. Because people will see if you're just using hashtags just to use them. Then you look disingenuous and then you turn people off. So you want to make sure you keep people and not drive them away from what you're doing.
Right. So I found a tool, called hashtagify.me. And that one is really cool to me. Like, you can go in, you can put in a hashtag that relates to your material. And then when you put that hashtag in, it will come back and it'll tell you, hey, here are the most common hashtags that are similar to this one. And here they are ranked by popularity. So you might be wanting to use a hashtag that's like you said, create. And then it'll give you 10 other hashtags around it, and it'll tell you these are more popular, these are less popular, these are most associated, these are least associated, and it really it makes the process a lot simpler for somebody like me who just kind of grew up in the world of, well, I'm a post my stuff on Facebook for my friends that I'm still connected to from high school, and it's a whole different world when you're trying to use these things for marketing. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. And thank you for letting me know about that too, because I'm definitely going to put that to use.
Oh yeah, it's really nice, and it'll shorten the amount of time that it takes you to kind of just sit and brainstorm the hashtags. It goes straight to it, and it's free. You just go to, hashtagify.me and put in the hashtags, and it does cool stuff. So, no, that is awesome, man. And I think that's another big thing for us, especially when you're looking at doing entrepreneurship and business ownership in the Black community. A lot of us are not starting out in a position where we've got a big marketing budget or a big advertising budget. And so those hacks that we can use to start marketing to the right people and niching down and finding that right audience without having to spend a bunch of money on paid advertising. I mean, that's a massive value that you're adding to the community by sharing that. Want to show your support for Buy Black Podcast? Become a patron and get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes content and a shout-out in our new question and answer monthly episode. Make your first donation by visiting patreon.com/buyblackpodcast and send your questions for the show to questions@buyblackpodcast.com. I want to roll over into the main part of our show today because I find it interesting the aspects of self-publishing and how prolific that has become today. I mean, as a generation, I think we're just getting to a point where we're saying no to all the big brands and all the big clearinghouses and everything in our lives that's saying, if you want to have a platform, you have to come through me. I think there's just so much of an opportunity now for us to say, I'm just going to create my own platform and you can either work with me or not, but I'm going to make my own. And I love that. But more of us need to know how available it is and how to do it. Because just like with anything else, we get that bug in our ear saying, well, somebody else did that because they're better than me. I can't do that. And so I would love to just hand it over to you to talk us through the self-publishing process, what tools you use, who you go through, how the process works. And I'll probably even ask you more questions as you're going along, because I think this is a really valuable piece of information that some folks out there who may be thinking about self-publishing, whether they're, prose or poetry or whatever it is they're putting out, how they can get it done.
First, I want to give your audience this valuable tip right here, this tool right here. And I'm looking at it right now. Like if they, like, if they can get a pen ready, they can get whatever ready just to write this down so they can check it out later. Okay, I'm gonna say it twice. So it's HTTPS : thepennymatters.com. So that's THEPENNY matters.com/best self-publishing-sites. So it's https://thepennymatters.com/best self-publishing sites. And there's a hyphen between best self-publishing and sites, followed by a slash. That right there is crucial because this actually has a list of the top 9 best self-publishing sites that are out there. Okay, so it includes sites like Createspace. You have sites like Blurb, Script, Lulu, like all those sites. If people take that down who are actually interested in publishing their own work, they'll have access to a whole bunch of tools that they never thought about before. Me personally, I used Createspace, which is actually under the Amazon umbrella. So Createspace recently changed, meaning that you can go on that site, but they're going to direct you directly to Amazon Kindle publishing. So you'll be able to create an ebook for your work and also the paperback. But it's a very easy process. It's not as difficult as it looks. So the first thing you want to do when you're self-publishing, the very first thing you want to do is, of course, you want to have your manuscript. You want to make sure that you've read and reread your manuscript, get other people to read your manuscript, people who are good with writing, people who have good understanding of grammar, English, all that, etc. You want to do that. Once you do that, you can also use the paid services that are on a lot of these self-publishing websites. They're not too expensive at all. And what they'll do is they'll have professional people edit what you've written. They'll edit your manuscript. They'll make sure that it's easy to read. They'll make sure that it's grammatically correct. They'll make sure that your sentence structure is good and that you've gathered your thoughts and they're easy to understand. Once you've gone through that step, you will upload. You can just, you can simply save your manuscript on your computer, then upload it onto the site. Once you upload it onto the site, they give you the option to design your cover. How you do this up to you. You can use the templates that the websites have, templates. They have paid templates to design your cover, or you can use an outside source. And, if you know anybody who's into graphic design or anything like that, they can design your cover for you. You can tell them what the blurb you want to write on the back, all of that. And, that's completely up to you how you want to design your cover. And, that's really what I did. I made sure that my manuscript was edited properly. I made sure that my cover was designed properly. I put it together. Now, what there is after that is there's about a 24-hour review process. So they review it, make sure that, that the book is easy to read, that it's been put together properly, et cetera, et cetera. And also, they take a look at the sizes of the books, because your typical book is about, just say the average book is about 8.5 by 5.5. So you don't want to have a book that's 8 by 11. They want to make sure that it's within the proper guidelines for the size of a book. They want to make sure, you especially want to make sure that the book is what we call ergonomic, meaning it's easy to turn the pages, it's easy to hold in your hand, etc. Because, you don't want to have a big clunky floppy book. You want to have a book that's nice and compact, easy to read, easy to turn the pages, and people feel comfortable, carrying with them to school, to work, whatever they want to do with it, read on the train, whatever they want to do with it. So after that 24-hour period, they'll email you, they'll let you know, oh, your book meets all our guidelines, it's now ready for publishing. But there's a final step before that. They'll say you can either choose to have your book published now and go out onto the major distributors, or you can order a proof of your book. You can order a proof of your book just to, look at it, make sure it looks as good in your hand, as good in person as it does on the screen. I actually compare the proof that I get to those other books to see how it looks compared to them, to see how the design is, the framing, the structure of it, everything like that. Once I know that this book looks like a presentable book and not something I just slapped together in 5 minutes, then I say, okay, you can publish it now. And I clear it for publishing, and then, it's out there. And it usually takes about a week for the book to be fully published across the major platforms like Amazon, Barnes, all of that. It takes about a week for it to be on all of them. And then that's it. Your book is published. Feel free to start marketing people, getting the word out there.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the different like pricing options? Someone wants to self-publish a book. How much is it going to cost them? What do they need to be prepared to invest in order to get their idea into actual book form and out there in the world?
Right. So it can range. I mean, it can range because it depends. You can either use your self-publishing or you can use different companies that help people publish your work. So the difference is with self-publishing, it's 100% up to you. The way it gets built, the way the cover, the manuscript, the way everything is structured, and also the marketing. That's all up to you. Then you have the self-publishing where, well, it's not exactly self-publishing, but there are companies that will help you publish your work, but at a cost. Now with those companies, I would be wary of them because not all of them have your best interest at heart. Sometimes, some people are interested in writing. Me personally, I've gotten letters from companies that say, "Oh, we've seen that you're interested in publishing a book. How about you join our, use our company, use our services, and not only will we publish your book, we'll make sure you get the top of the line marketing so everybody can know about it and all that." And they promise you all these pipe dreams and all these, ice cream dreams and holding hands and kicking cans. But at the end of the day, a lot of those companies are out for their best interest. So they'll take your money and then nothing will really happen for your book. So self-publishing really should not cost you a lot. At the most, it should cost maybe a couple $100 for editing and for a good graphic designer. At the most, it really should not cost you a lot of money. Because I've seen some of these companies that say, "Oh, we have packages for $1,200 and $2,000. And I'm like, you're out for yourself. This is a borderline scam. There's no proven results. There's no guarantee that you'll get my book to the people that I want it to reach. No, I'm good. So just make sure that, that your book is in the right hands. Make sure that you maintain control of the process throughout the entire time. It really should not cost you a lot.
Golden. And, for a couple of those services you mentioned, editing, graphic design for your cover, things like that. I mean, Fiverr goes a long way for a lot of those processes. Have you used Fiverr for any of the kind of the jobs that you needed to have done with your publishing that you might not have wanted to do yourself? Or if not, is there any other tools that you used or places you went to get a little bit of work done?
So yeah, you have Fiverr, you have Upworks, you have, different companies where people freelance their art skills. I've stayed away from Fiverr because, with Fiverr it's hit or miss. You can get someone who's really good. You can get someone who says they're really good or not. And I didn't want to play with my baby. These books to me are my baby. So I'm doing unnecessary, taking unnecessary, tossing a coin in the air because I don't know who is who. People can be anybody online. So what I did was, I had different people look at it, look at my cover, but me, myself, I did none of it because I've always been an arty person myself, but I would suggest that, if you feel like art and creativity and stuff are not really your strong suits, I do suggest, using graphic designers. What I make it a point to do on Facebook is I actually drop links to different graphic designers that are out there that I'm friends with or even if I'm not friends with them, I'll share their links to their graphic design services. So anybody who does need a graphic designer for like a cover or, for a logo or anything like that, they can go to that person and see what they have to offer and all that because I want to spread that knowledge. But me, myself, I didn't really use an outside source. The designs are all me.
Yeah. So for me, I am not creative at all. I'm very analytical, inside the box. Even as an adult, my best drawing is going to be a stick figure. And so I definitely use those creative tools. Now, what's interesting, I was given some advice by somebody about a great way to use Fiverr for graphic design. If you're dealing with even a low end graphic designer, right, they're gonna ask you for, $50, $150, $250 for a design. But with Fiverr, you've got people in there and their work starts at $5 and then, it gets higher and higher premium. But you could go on a Fiverr, find 10 graphic designers and just take their lowest end gig and say, hey, make me a graphic design for this book cover, $5. And you just spent $50 to get 10 different designs. And then from those 10 designs, you look and you find maybe the one or two that you really like. And you go back to those graphic designers and then you pay for a more premium, design, right? And so now you've saved a whole lot of money as opposed to paying a graphic designer, as if you're not, a creative person like yourself. But you saved a lot of money on buying a graphic designer that was kind of hit or miss to now saying, okay, I'm willing to pay you a little bit more money because I've already seen a sample of your work that didn't cost me a lot and now make me something beautiful. So that was a really interesting way to use the platform that somebody told me about. And I think it's kind of a way to get around that. I don't know whether I'll get quality for my dollar on that.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point because another thing too is you can actually, ask for samples of somebody's work. Like you can see what they've done in the past. Like let's say somebody responds to your ad on Fiverr. You say, this is what I'm looking for, and someone responds like, yeah, I can do that for you. Okay, what's your social media? What's your Instagram, whatever, so I can see the work you've done in the past so I know if I want to go with you or not. And like I said, and like what you were saying ties back into what I was saying earlier. The whole process should not cost you a whole lot of money. Like just like you were saying, like there are people on Fiverr offering $5, $10, $20 for their services. I've seen it. I've been on Fiverr myself. I've actually offered my services on Fiverr in the past. So yeah, when you deal with that, it's very cost effective. But I would just say with anything like that, like anything, use caution. Make sure that the person's able to show you samples of what they can do before you decide to give your money to somebody, even if it's as little as $5. But like we live in times where it's easier than ever to create, to build, to market, to put yourself out there. Like the internet is gold if you make it gold.
Love it. And then of course, there's other places where you can go. Go ahead.
One more thing. Yeah, one more thing, Gerald. Upworks is also another. I think Upworks is a little bit more reputable than Fiverr because to go on Upworks, they actually ask you to like a photo ID and things like that. So they have a more streamlined and a little stronger vetting process on Upworks. And there's plenty of people there offering graphic design, all types of artistic and creative services. So that's another very good one.
Yep. And so also on Upwork, especially when you're talking about technical skills, like maybe web design, WordPress, or anything like that, like they make those people actually like take a test and then they score them based on how well they do on their test. So you can look and say, hey, this is an expert designer. This is a average designer. And then you can kind of compare their expertise with the prices that they're asking and you can negotiate with them. Whereas with Fiverr, it's just, look, either pay me the gig or don't.
Absolutely. Exactly. So if people are going to do that, Upworks is actually one of the strongest ones they can use for freelancers.
I like it. Gosh, there was something I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So the other thing about self-publishing for low cost is once the book is out there and you're marketing, you already said you did a lot of pre-marketing on social media. And then now, here we are on the podcast. This is also a free marketing platform to get people to know about your book. So, for anybody out there, if you are holding on to that thing that's inside of you and you are not putting it out there to the world, put it out there and you can find a way to get that idea, that thought, that creativity out of you and into the world in a way that is not going to cost you a whole bunch of money. And, maybe your first one doesn't go out and sell 1,000 or 5,000 copies, right? But you learn the process and then you go out the second time around and you do it better and then do it better. And then it just becomes a way of life of turning your creativity into something tangible for the world. And you can always reach out to podcasts like mine. There are other podcasts and places that are for creative people where you can go and you can market your stuff to the world without having to spend a whole bunch of money on marketing too. So
Exactly.
what I'd like to do now, Ed, if it's okay, what I would love to do is have you share a little bit from your second book that came out. So for those of you out there, Ed's first book is called Normal Thoughts from a Random Mind, and it is a book of poetry. And then now he has come out with Volume 2, Normal Thoughts from a Random Mind, Volume 2. It came out on September 26th, which just happens to be the day of this recording, but you guys will be hearing it in October. And it is available on Amazon, Google Books, all the different places where you would go to normally find your books. Is it all right, Ed, if I could ask you to maybe share a poem or two with us and let the people know the kind of motivation that they're going to be getting inside of these books?
Yeah, no doubt, definitely. So this poem is actually from Volume 1. This is from Volume 1 on Normal Thoughts from a Random Mind, right? So it's called Art Is. Art is one of those words that's heard, but no one questions its meaning. What is art? It plays its part, daily, morn, and evening. Art is drawing. Art is painting. Art is speech that causes fainting. Art is a photo that freezes time. Art is that nuisance who pantomimes. Art is danger, is laughter. Art is true. Art is all the real you do. Art is trapped inside of you. Let it out from red to blue. Art is life. It's morning dew. It's mountains, valleys, trees, and shrubs, from the lowest crevice to the skies above. Art is feathers on a dove, an eagle's flight, a lion cub. The blackest night, the sun's first light. Building something with all your might. Above all else, one can see. Art is alive, and art is free. Art is all that you want it to be. Art made you, and art made me.
Wow, man, that is awesome. I love that. I love that because
I thank you, man.
the fact that people try to put art in a box anyway is right. Something that annoys me, right? But anything that comes out of you that expresses some emotion, or anything that you see in the world that taps into an emotion, that it's art. I mean, this podcast, this is an art project. This is putting art into the world. I love that poem. And so that's from the first volume, right?
That's from the first one, yes.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What about one from art? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, it's anything you create. Art is anything you create. It's not just drawing. It's not just painting. It's anything. It's a great speech. Someone who gives a great speech, they're an artist. Anything you create and put out into the world. I have it's something I thought of recently. It says, creativity makes you immortal. Creativity makes you immortal. Anything that you create and put into this world will last, and it will outlive you. So long after you're gone physically, you'll still be here spiritually, creatively, and artistically. Because once you create something and put it in the world, nothing can stop it. Look at people like Biggie Smalls, Tupac, Bob Marley, people like that. They were creative. People like Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey. They were creative in their own right because they wanted to defeat the status quo. They wanted to change the status quo into one of empowerment. And we're still talking about them today, even though they're long gone. So once you're creative, once you're a creative soul, that's a powerful spirit that'll burn on forever. So it's really a powerful thing. People shouldn't underestimate it.
That's so true. I wrote that down, so that's probably going to be the quote of the day for this episode. Creativity makes you immortal. I've often thought about some 30 or 40 years from now, some 19 or 20-year-old saying, I want to start a business. I don't know how. I don't know where to start. And them going out to the internet and just doing a search, which at that point would probably just be them, pressing the button on their collar and saying search whatever. And then it pops up on the little, visual screen in front of them that is built into their eyeball or whatever the heck it's going to be 40 years from now. But, I've thought about somebody doing that, and this podcast comes out and there's, 200, 300, 400, 500 episodes where somebody long after I'm dead is listening to the people I've interviewed and then taking those same pieces of advice and going out and being successful from this medium. I've thought about that a lot. I think that's a really powerful thing that really ties into what you were talking about of becoming immortal through your creativity. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, and it's the truth, right? Because for us as Black people, especially, one of the things that we really need to focus on is legacy building. And you can't build a legacy if you don't own anything, you don't control anything. Once you create piece by piece, you're not going to create Rome overnight or Wakanda or Timbuktu overnight. It's going to be piece by piece. I release a book here, I release a book there, and eventually I build up my name, I build up, I affect people's lives because what I write is meant to inspire people. It's meant to give people that drive. It's meant to show people that they can do it too. So once you see that I can do it and you do it, then that's when we start building ourselves as people, and that's when we start, really creating things that we can look back on and that our descendants can look back on and say, you know what, I'm really proud that, I'm descended from that person right there. And let me continue to build on his legacy because I don't want to put dirt on his name or her name. So it's crucial, man, and it's more powerful than we can put words.
Absolutely. So have you got a poem from the new book that you'd be willing to share with us?
Absolutely. It's freshening out the oven, man. Let me get it ready.
All right.
All right. So this one is called Interests. All right. And so it goes, there's so much more to this world of ours than the lives of athletes and movie stars, than the clubs, the lounges, and dingy bars, than the dumbed-down music leaving mental scars, than shiny chains, clothes, and flashy cars. What are you interested in? What moves your heart? What makes you, reminds you of who you are? Each one of us is a shining star, bursting with talent. That's who you are. Look through yourself. It is. You're too talented to be subpar. Reality, TV, and media wars make you forget what your brain is for. Expand your mind, your conversation. Science, history, no reservation. Our identities need preservation. What are you interested in? Be interested in this world you live in. When you're truly interesting, that's when the real you begins.
So I'm noticing a trend here. You create poetry that challenges this kind of brainless status quo that we found ourselves in.
Yeah, but the main reason, because I noticed as people we were kind of losing touch of our humanity a little bit. We were losing touch of who we are, So I just wanted to remind people what it is to feel and to be human again, and to never be yourself. Because most people in this world, they don't trust themselves. That's why they refuse to start their own business or create their own service or create their own product, because the number one thought that they have in their mind is, what if it fails? I don't want to fall on my face. I don't want to get embarrassed in front of my family and friends. So let me stick to whatever is safe. And then the worst thing you can do is keep being safe for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and look back on your life and say, damn, I regret that I did not do that thing that I knew that I would have been good at if I'd just been brave enough to do it. So that's one of the main themes of my books, is just do it, man. Don't put your real self on a shelf. Don't put your real self on a shelf. Be you. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid of your talents. I've spoken to people in my age and younger, and they've told me, I don't have any talents. And I said, that's ridiculous. That's wrong. Everybody has talents. Every single person on the planet has talents. I even have a poem about that too. Your talent can be anything. It doesn't have to be, being able to have a 40-inch vertical leap and dunk from the free throw line. Your talent could just be, you're great at making friends. Your talent is, you're good at making people feel better. Every single one of us on the planet has a talent. We're not put on this earth for no reason. Find that talent and make a living off of it. Not only make a living off of it, but make that your happiness. One of the keys to happiness is finding your purpose and living your purpose every single day of your life. That's one key. And that's also another key to success. Because when I see people who hate, what they have to get up out of bed to do and go in the morning, when I see people who hate mornings and hate Mondays because they hate their job, that's tragic to me, because That's chipping away at your spirit, and that's chipping away at your health and your mental health and your physical health. So find who you are and do that. Do that. That's it. Invest everything in that. You'll thank yourself. You'll thank yourself.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Like there's no, like, I hate the phrase, the sky is the limit, because to me there is no limit. The sky is no limit. Your only limit is you. And if you don't limit yourself, nothing can stop you. So, that's the only motto I believe in.
I love it, man. Well, what I'd like to do at this point is I want to turn a corner here, and it's kind of a circling back to go forward, because very early in the conversation, you said that you want to give back to your parents, and then you want to give back to your community. And when we talked the other day, we had a really good conversation about the importance of building our community and taking ownership for ourselves. And you've kind of alluded to it today, but talk to us a little bit about your vision for giving back to the community.
Yeah, well, what I really would like to do, I want to open up a tutoring center. That's something I'd really like to get going. Just to help kids, because I see there's a lot of need for it. Because when I first started tutoring, I was tutoring like kids in elementary, middle, and high school, and I saw that, a lot of them just weren't engaged or interested in what they were learning because they couldn't connect to it. They looked at it like, this has nothing to do with me. When am I going to use this? Why should I use this? Why should I care about this? And that was tragic to me, because these are very, very intelligent kids. And then what made it even worse was I was a teacher at a school in the Bronx in New York City, and I saw a bunch of teachers who just did not care. Well, literally, one teacher told me, "Oh, this is just a paycheck for me until I go to med school." And I'm like, "Wow, damn, this is terrible. Like, these kids have so much potential. They need all the investment, time, and energy we can give them." So that's why I'd really like to create a tutoring center where, and it won't, like, the focus won't just be academic, it will also be life skills. So they'll learn, they'll learn how to handle life, they'll learn about their history as African children, and they'll learn, how important it is to own your own and create and have ownership and control of your talents and your abilities, and to create businesses where you can employ your own people, so that we don't have to go to people who don't always have our best interests at heart and try to beg them for employment. Because, that's not always the best idea, because a 9-to-5 is great for paying the bills and everything like that, but it's not always safe if someone can fire you. So we need to get more into the mindset of ownership. So I'd really like to give back that way. I've already started with my tutoring, but I want to expand it massively. I want to expand it on a high level. So that's for the next few years. And, I try to give back in little ways also, making sure that, kids are doing their homework, making sure that kids are asking questions in class, talking to kids after school. I'm not in the school system anymore, but I talk to the kids and just try to find out where their heads are at. When I see them, doing something on the street that's not really right or not really the brightest thing to do, I correct them, but I correct them in a respectful way, because I respect them the same way I expect them to respect me. Another thing too, and another way we can all give back as Black adults is to respect the kids and like because I noticed that a lot of the older generation, there's a disconnect between the older and the younger generation, and that needs to stop. Like, that needs to heal, and then that needs together. We need to speak to the young people and have them speak to us and communicate with each other so we can understand each other. Because if they don't respect us, it's going to be chaos, and if we don't respect them, that's it for our future. So there's a lot that we can do, and there's a lot of steps we can take, but the good thing is that things will heal if we just do what we have to do.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think you're right on track. I tell myself this often. I don't think I've voiced it out on the platform yet, but as I'm doing this podcast, I feel like the target audience is kind of my generation, the millennial, which, millennials are not these, 18, 19, 20 somethings. Millennials, we're in our mid 30s now. But
or late 20s in my case.
Yeah, late 20s to mid 30s. That's the actual millennial generation.
Right.
This is kind of a post millennial thing. But when I look at it, I talk to people who are maybe up to 10 to 15 years older than me. and this podcast speaks to them and they learn things that they're using. And then I talk to people who are probably down to another 15 years younger than me, and this podcast speaks directly to them, right? And that's kind of the range because, you know, for that older generation, you know, that's like my mom's age, you know, 60 plus, they have already decided on how their world is going to look. They've already lived most of their money producing lives. And for the folks who are younger than that, those kids that you're interacting with today, they're growing up in a world where instant access to any piece of information that they want anywhere in the world exists. It just is there for them. So it's not a strange idea for them to say, I can have an idea, I can go research it on the internet, and then I can turn it into a real thing. I've talked to so many young entrepreneurs who are in their, 19, 20, 21 years old. They're in college, they have a business, they have a tech company, and they're also, playing sports and doing athletics. It's just part of their world. But for those of us right here in the center, right, we're the ones who have to have that mental shift that not only can we go out and we can create for ourselves, we can take ownership and create our own businesses and step away from the 9-to-5, but then we can also turn and look at this generation behind us and say, and these folks are already ahead of the game, and we can learn so much from the younger generation than us. Much more so than I think that our parents would look and say they could have learned things about business from us. And we definitely need to change our mindset around the kids and what it is they have going on. You see so many young entrepreneurs, and I mean like 10, 11, 12 years old out here on Oprah with their, 6-figure, about to be 7-figure business now. It's just a part of their lives.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like, we live in. Well, I actually got to give a lot of these kids credit too, because we live in the times that we're so bombarded with information 24/7, 365 that it's easy to get overwhelmed. But a lot of them don't get overwhelmed. They take full advantage of it, and just like what you said, it's they use that to build their own businesses, but they don't just focus on one area. They specialize in a bunch of different things. Like they have, like you, for instance, you'll see someone in their early 20s with a YouTube channel, and they've also got a T-shirt line, and they also, make music. Like they'll be in a whole bunch of different fields. And that reminds me of a quote from an author. I forgot the author's name, but basically the quote said, and I'm just going to paraphrase the quote. It basically said, a human should be able to do a whole bunch of things. He should be able to cook. He should be able to change a baby. He should be able to fight. He should be able to, hunt. He should be able to write a letter, do every single thing. And then the whole quote, at the end of it, he sums it up by saying, specialization is for insects. That means as humans, we're supposed to be well-rounded people. Just because I like science doesn't mean I can't like poetry and math. Just because I like math doesn't mean I can't like to read. So we should be well-rounded, curious about this world around us, and trying to leave as big a footprint and an impact on this world as we can, which I know each and every one of us is capable of that. It starts with us believing in ourselves.
I love it. It is indeed. Well, man, this has been a great conversation. I got to hit you with these last few questions with the lightning round here. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let me go ahead and ask you this first one. What is the biggest challenge that you have faced in your life, and how did you overcome it, or what did you learn from it?
My biggest challenge was deciding what direction I wanted to go in life. Because I remember I was sitting in college, and I'm not going to lie to you, I was in college and I was looking at a lot of the stuff I was learning. I was like, a lot of this stuff really is not going to apply to my life outside of college. I really am not going to use a lot of this stuff again. I'm having fun in college. I'm meeting new people. I'm learning new things. But some of this stuff is, let me just be quite honest, a waste of my time. So while I was going through college, I was saying, what direction am I going to go in? What am I really going to do with my life? I'm in business. I'm interested in business, but what can I do with business? What do I really want to do with it? And that was my big challenge, because it was almost like I was having a quarter-life crisis. But I thought about it, and I looked back at myself, and I wrote my talents down. And then based on those talents, I wrote down my interests, and I wrote down goals that I wanted to accomplish. So my biggest challenge was deciding what course I wanted to take in life, but I overcame that by reminding myself who I was, what I'm good at, and what I can do, and the skills that I can use to actually make my life a happy one.
I love it. I love it. So next question for you, sir. What is your favorite tool that you use that saves you time, money, or energy? Like for me, my favorite one is 10to8.com, my appointment scheduling system. It makes me look like a genius, even though I do absolutely nothing. It does all the work for me. Do you have something like that in your life that makes you, just makes life so much easier for you?
If I were to think about it now, I would say Createspace did that for me because it was such a streamlined process. It was just such a simple process. So that really did it for me. And, you know, just that's really mainly it. I've also used online advertising through Facebook, and that's actually been a pretty streamlined and quick process also. So it basically gets my work out there without me having to actually put in my hours of my life getting the word. The word is automatically put out there through the computer system, and I can focus on doing other things. So those two things really have made my life easier.
I love it. I love it. So, Createspace, streamline the process of making your product, and then the Facebook ads, streamline the process of getting the word out to people. I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the next
also
question.
Advertising.
Oh, go ahead.
Just one more thing. Also advertising on other people's YouTube platforms. I've also used YouTube. There are a few YouTubers who have pretty big followings. I've actually advertised on their shows as well. So that's actually helped me out in a lot of ways.
Very nice. So YouTube is one we don't hear much on the show, but it is a huge platform that people use for marketing. I'm actually in the process now of figuring out how I'm going to turn this into a live video podcast where I'm already creating this content and it's audio content, but I want to be able to turn this into a live recording. So like the conversation we're having right now, whenever I have one of these interviews, I would record it live. I would be streaming it live on Facebook or YouTube. So they've got me, they've got you. We've got an audience that's right there. They can ask questions immediately. And then on the backside of it, I would strip out the audio and then produce it as the podcast like normal. And it's almost like creating two pieces of content for the price of one, right? Because that video marketing is so huge for people being right there in the moment and being engaged with it.
Exactly, right. And YouTube, people, like I say, I have 3 words for YouTube. You better use it. That's all I have to say because it's a huge platform. And I mean, the one great thing about living in 2018, as weird as times may be in other ways, it's never been easier to create a product or get that product out there. It's super easy. All you have to do is be willing to do it.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, that's the thing we want to roll to now. Where can people find your books? And also, where can they find you? If people want to get in touch with you to learn more about this self-publishing process, to talk to you about your tutoring program, if that's something that they wanted to set up in their own areas, give us all of that contact information. Where do we find the book? Where do we find you?
Absolutely. So the name of the book it's 2 books. The names of the books are Normal Thoughts from a Random Mind, Volume 1, and Normal Thoughts from a Random Mind, Volume 2. Now, you can find both of these books on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. That's Normal Thoughts from a Random Mind, Volumes 1 and 2. Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Now, if people want to reach me, they can find me at my Instagram, which is Edd's Art World. That's D as in dog, Art, A-R-T, World with 2 R's, so WORRLD. That's my Instagram. Edd's Art World. EDDZARTWORRLD. That's my Instagram. And then if they want to find me on Facebook, it's Edd, like that's EDD, Far, Far, apostrophe S, authors page. So no. See, let me correct that. It's Edd Far, authors page. So EDDFAR, authors with an apostrophe S page. That's me on Facebook. And then once again, Instagram is Edd's Art World.
Golden. That is awesome, man. Well, that brings us to our final question of the day. It's a question I always like to end the show on. What is your number one piece of advice for our listening community as a whole?
My number one piece of advice is trust yourself. Trust yourself. Once you trust yourself, the sky is no limit. Once you believe in you, it doesn't matter if other people say you can't do it or that's too risky or you're going to fail. Once you believe in yourself and you trust yourself and you have nothing but 1,000,000,000% confidence in yourself, you will do it. Every single thing I put my mind to and said, I'm going to do it, it's been done. So that's what I live by. Trust yourself. You can't go wrong.
That is awesome. That's a great way to end it out. Well, Edd, thank you so very much for reaching out to me and then coming on for the show today. For you folks out there who are listening, go out, find Edd's book on Amazon, on the Barnes & Noble page. If you are the type of person who is inspired by poetry, he writes the type of poetry that is designed to get you inspired, motivated, thinking differently about the world around you, and then taking action on those new thoughts. So thank you for joining me, Edd. And for you folks out there, we will catch you in the next episode.
Thanks a lot, Gerald. Take care, man.
Hey guys, thanks for being a part of this By Black podcast episode with Edd Far. Quickly, you probably heard me talking to Edd during the show about taking By Black podcast from strictly audio to audio and video live. Well, we've already made that leap. And so if you are not currently following me on Facebook at GWJonesII, and if you're not following the By Black podcast page on Facebook, do that today. Every week, we will bring you a new By Black podcast interview live on Facebook. You'll be able to interact with me, interact with my guest, and interact with other people in the chat as you get your questions answered in real time. We've done this twice now. It's been a great success. We're getting nearly 2,000 views on the shows as they go out as video directly to Facebook. And so you want to be a part of that because you want to be a part of the conversation right there as it's going on. This coming Wednesday, we're going to have an interview with Jermaine Hagan. He is the owner of Harmony Herb Company, and he is going to teach us how to invest in our health so that our bodies can receive and be able to build the wealth. It's going to be a wonderful conversation. He's going to help us get everything aligned, get our weight in order, get our health in order, get our energy in order, and do it all by avoiding chemicals and drugs going into our bodies. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. And again, to reiterate, follow me at Facebook. It's GWJonesii. And of course, like the page at By Black Podcast on Facebook. And as you all know as well, we have the community group, By Black Podcast Community. If you want to join that group, that is specifically for followers of the show who are looking to both support and grow their own Black-owned businesses. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. Look forward to growing this platform as we move into a new medium. And we're just going to take it to the next level. Closing out 2018, moving into 2019. Come join us. Be a part of it. I'll talk to you soon.